Today we're going to make Grandma's chicken soup from scratch. So we want 1 whole yellow onion, we want celery, and we want carrots. Now I like the baby carrots, but you can use the whole carrots as well. Also for the celery stalks, you do want not just the ribs, but you want the stuff on the end as well. So for the onion, you want to keep the hairy part intact and then cut from the other end. So I'm going to cut the other end off, and then I'm going to just take the knife and make a slit and peel the outer couple of layers of the onion off so that we don't have that brown icky paper on there. This is the part that takes me the longest because I'm not very good with my hands in slow motions anymore now that I'm reaching in my 60s. But as you can see, I'm peeling the onion, and we're going to take that outer layer off. Now once we have the onion peeled, we're going to leave that hairy end intact, and we're going to split the onion in two. I actually did not split it correctly in two on this video, so you'll see one of my halves do not have the hairy end on it. But the reason I do that is so it stays together in the pot, because I don't like to leave the onion in there when I'm done, when I go to eat. Now I've got 2 cups of cut carrots. I love carrots. You can go more if you'd like. I ended up putting an extra cup in a little bit later because I decided there wasn't enough. So you can see I've got 2 cups of carrots. They're cut into little pieces, just easier to cook, easier to eat, and I'm going to put them in the pot. Next, we're going to go to our celery. Now we want the stalks of the celery. That actually gives the soup its flavor. If you don't have that and you only have the ribs, you can put celery salt in. But I'm going to cut these up into pieces like I did with the carrots, and I'm not quite going to put 2 cups in there. It's a little less on the celery than the carrots because I'm not really a celery person. But again, the celery, the tops, are the part that flavor the soup. So it's very important that you put those in there. Once you're done cutting these up, go ahead and put them in your little container and stick them in the pot as well. Now we're going to take a whole chicken. I have cleaned it, I've rinsed it, I've cleaned it, and we're going to take a whole chicken and we're going to salt and pepper it. We've got about 4 tablespoons of salt here. Just use some liberally on the top and the bottom, and the rest we're going to use in the soup itself, in the stock. And then I use white pepper. I'm not really a pepper fan. There's just 1 tablespoon, and I'm using half on each side. I rub it in also just to make sure it's all over, including the legs and the wings. And once I am done putting that on there, I am going to add that to the pot as well. Now I use a pot with a colander on the bottom, but you don't have to. It'll work just fine in a tall pot, but that's what I use. It makes it easier. Now we're going to take the pot over to the sink and we're going to add cold water until it's covered the chicken completely. You just want cold water, cover it until the chicken is covered. It's really hard to find cold water in Arizona, so I put that all the way to the right, but it's still not cold. Once you have completed filling the pan, go ahead and place it on the stove. Now we're going to put it on medium-high and wait for it to come to boil, but first we're going to add the remainder salt. It seems like a lot, but trust me, you're going to need it. Just put the rest of the salt in there, and I didn't have any leftover pepper. Cover it and let it sit for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. If it starts to boil over, lower the heat. After 1 hour and 15 minutes, when the chicken starts coming off the bone when you use a fork, I go ahead and pull that up there and let that strain out a little bit so that I can use a fork and get the chicken out and put it in a large container. Once I have it in the large container, I will shred the chicken up and put it back, but in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and take whatever's left in the bottom of that colander and put it back in the soup. That would be your carrots and celery, and if you don't want your onion in there at this time, you can. That's the one with the hairy end that I'm taking out. I'm going to go ahead and leave the other small amount in there just for flavor. So I'm going to put all that back in, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue to cut the meat off of the chicken in order to put it back into the container. Now, I'm going to turn my heat back on, and I'm going to put the chicken into the pot and just put it all in and give it a quick stir. And then I'm going to use egg noodles to put in the soup because I like noodles. Now, I use the no yolks, but you can use whatever you want. I've got the medium size, and I'm going to put about a half a bag because I do like to keep mine kind of liquidy. I don't like it too much noodles in there. So again, it's the no yolks that I'm using, but you can use any egg noodle you'd like. Stir it up, give it a quick stir, and we're going to cook it for about 10 or 11 minutes until the noodles are done at this point. I'm going to give it a quick taste just to make sure that it doesn't need any more salt, and it's all good. So we're going to put the lid on and let it cook some more. And yes, I know that I dripped the rest of that in there, but no one's eating this but me, so it's okay. All right, lid back on, and we're going to go ahead and cook it for about 10 minutes. Okay, the soup is done. Doesn't it look yummy? We've got the noodles, the carrots, the little pieces of onion that I left in there, and we've got a bowl. We're going to go ahead and stick it in there. I had already had a little liquid in there tasting it. And this is Grandma's homemade chicken soup. And it is really good, and it is really good for you. Just the right thing on a nice cold winter day. Go ahead and try it. Let me know what you think.